I am the famous American, and let's talk about this. Welcome to my behind the scenes video to tell you a little bit about this channel, which has been around for a couple of years now. This week I officially changed the name. Did you notice? Did anybody notice? It was, for all these years, called Family Friendly Daddy Blog. Now originally when I started this second YouTube channel, my first one is called Nick Shell, which is my name. That's got twice as many subscribers as this one, which basically talks about the keto lifestyle. And my own journey, and also you can see the guitar back there. I also write original songs. So Nick Shell, that's my main channel. That's what I started out with first. And then about a year later, I started this one. So this one's been out for a couple years, but I called it Family Friendly Daddy Blog because that's the name of my blog. Yes, familyfriendlydaddyblog.com. I'm a daddy blogger. There you go. Something new you might not have known about me. Well, the whole concept was to extend that brand. I thought, well, I want to make a video version of my blog. What I learned though is people weren't interested in parenting information that I was producing. Instead, it coincided with me taking a DNA test, and that video took off. Then I started making videos about DNA test, and then from there spinning off talking about cultural perceptions, especially from an American mindset, perceptions of race and ethnicity, etc. Turns out, I couldn't have done this on purpose. Turns out, the majority of my viewers on this channel are not American. They're actually European, which I think is interesting. So here I have a channel that was supposed to be about being a parent. People didn't care about that. They wanted to talk about how stupid and ignorant I am as an American. So I kind of leaned into that and sort of sarcastically started referring to myself as the famous American. I've been doing this for months now, actually, because again, on YouTube, people love, in the comment section, they love to insinuate that I am ignorant, stupid, and even immoral. You know, when I mention things like, hey, here in the United States, we don't know much about world geography. You know what? We don't need to. We have Canada, we have Mexico bordering us. That's all we really need to know. My sense of well-being, my ability to make a living for myself is in no way affected by me knowing trivial geography about the world. That's a fact, but a lot of people in Europe freak out about it. And they like to say that I'm wrong, I'm immoral, and I'm ignorant. They like to say those things. So again, I leaned into that concept and thought, what if I just call myself the famous American? More like the infamous American, but what if I just call myself the famous American? That sounds like a funny thing. It didn't hit me until this week. Why don't I just call the channel The Famous American and just fully embrace that? And so, yeah, I've been very inspired by that. And I will continue to make videos from an American point of view, because I realize that's kind of what I'm selling here, is I'm legitimately telling you my perspective, which is very different from a lot of people in Europe, mainly the viewers of this channel. As I talk about things like, and again, it's a daily comment, why are you Americans so obsessed with race? And I keep reminding you, what if you grew up in a country where you constantly, for your government, had to fill out your race and ethnicity? For your schools, for your employers, you had to fill that out so that you yourselves would not be discriminated against in case you are a minority. Like, that's how it is. So we're very aware of that. Born in 1981, I'm turning 40 in 2 months. Born in 1981, I was born in the aftermath of all the racist history that had right behind me. Now we're still living in it, yes, the aftermath, but I'm very aware of it. Because I think the irony is when you're very aware of not being racist and discriminating against people, you somewhat almost become in this form of culture that is reflective of who you are in your attempt not to be racist, because you have to focus so much on it. See, that's fascinating. That triggers a lot of people, that bothers a lot of people, and I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not ashamed of the fact we're not good at world geography, because again, I have a good life here in the United States. I have a good job. My life is good. If I knew more about world geography, it actually would not help me. If anything, it might hurt me. I don't know. Maybe I'd be less creative because I'd know all this trivia of world geography. If anything, as a YouTuber, I'm probably better off knowing less about world geography. Why? Because it inspires more videos for people in Europe to tell me how bad I am at geography, and therefore I can make a video about Spain. Do most Americans even know where Spain is on a map? The answer is probably not. I know that it borders France, but not a lot of other people do that. A lot of people in the United States don't even realize that Spain is part of Europe, that if you're Spanish, you're European. Why? Because we have Mexico to the south, And people conflate the concept of Hispanic, Mexican, Spanish. They conflate all of that. See, that's interesting, and I can talk about it very openly. But it's very natural for people in the comment section who watch my videos to, again, brand me as ignorant, immoral, and wrong because of my American perception. Funny thing is, like I just made a recent video about this. What if I were the one who was born and raised in Europe? Then maybe I would see the Americans as ignorant. But it's a matter of recognizing that we have different cultural upbringings that cause us to have a different perspective. So that's why very openly I talk about the American perspective, because ultimately, let's face it, it's fascinating to Europeans. So, sort of as a joke, I have dubbed myself the famous American. I've been calling myself that, for a year and a half now? It took me this long to think, why don't I just change the name of the channel? So there you go. There's a little bit of insight on what this channel is about, openly talking about race, ethnicity, DNA tests, all of these things, because it's almost taboo in a way, especially here in the United States, because we're trying so hard not to be racist and get canceled that it kind of makes us obsessed with race, which almost makes us seem racist. I watched this other YouTube video recently where it was trying to show the difference between a racist and someone who's woke, and saying that a woke person is very similar to a racist person because they're so focused on segregating basically the minorities from the majority that it's almost racist in a way. See, that's fascinating. It's a messy thing. What's not going to change is the difference between the European and the American mindset. But what can change individually is our ability to accept that the other half, the other side, was raised differently with a different perspective. Does America need to change their perspective? Do they need to grow and heal from our racist past that we have? Not just with African Americans, but with Native Americans and so on. Absolutely, there's plenty of healing to do. But in reality, I feel to some degree that my videos inch us a little bit closer to finding that healing, because if we don't talk about it, how can we be healed from it? We need to be able to have open conversations about these things. It's part of the healing process, and I don't think a lot of people feel safe to talk about that. I think here in the United States, we'll be dubbed as a racist if we talk about it, or we'll be dubbed as ignorant by people who watch us from overseas. But I don't care about that. I'm okay with the label of ignorant, stupid, immoral, wrong. I'm okay with that. And some people in Europe would say, yeah, that's exactly right, because you're American. You're okay with being arrogant and ignorant. Well, that's not how I perceive it. I perceive it as a different perspective. And again, that's why these conversations are so relevant and important, and I think, if nothing else, too, entertaining. Your comments belong right here.